Hey everyone, what's up? Welcome back. Today's video I'm actually really excited about. I have a ton of nozzles to be building at the moment, but this is something that I've wanted to do for a few months now. Actually probably a bit longer than that. As a lot of you will remember if you've been watching my videos, a couple of months ago I did this off the back of discussions that I had with a gentleman in the United States. I had to go at 3D printing a nozzle, and I was relatively happy with the results. But the reason I was doing it was because a lot of people around the world who wanted to build some of the brass style nozzles that I started out doing, they were having trouble finding the fittings. And I actually had a guy in Europe ask if he could use the file for this to 3D print his own. And that gave me an idea. I wanted to try and make it as easy as possible to build these, and a lot of people were having trouble, particularly with the air needles that run in them, just because they need to be machined up and there's some threading involved. There were some quite innovative people around the world that found different ways of doing it, but essentially if you didn't have access to a lathe or different engineering equipment, it became very difficult. So I set out, working about some other way that you could get around that. I was looking through different parts that you could find anywhere in the world, but even that became a little complicated, and I wanted a way to just simplify that. So when I started printing these, this is with a really old printer. This is an ABS. The print finish isn't that great. The threads, the resolution on threads is not that great at all either, and I had a lot of trouble getting it to fit together easily. So that put a little bit of a dampener on the project. Since then, I've got a new 3D printer, and I had another look into the project. We went back into lockdown, a very short lockdown for 3 days earlier this week. My printer turned up about halfway through, so I had a little bit of time and I sat down and tried to knock it out. And what I came up with was this. So this is entirely 3D printed. I haven't even tested it yet. This is really fresh. I printed it last night. There was a lot of messing around to get things to work properly, but effectively this could be printed in a day, half a day, depending on how good your 3D printing abilities are. I'm pretty fresh to it. I've printed this, another couple of things, and then I printed this. So there was a lot of work around basically bringing my abilities up to the point where I was able to produce something that was replicable by other people. But this is what I've come up with. Now, the nozzle's 3D printed as well, so I'm still yet to find out what the wear profile is like on them. All the hose barbs in it, they're all screwed in as well. And the air jet is actually printed as part of the body too, so you're probably not going to be able to see that from there. I'll get some close-up shots from it later, and I might overlay them, or I'll show them later in the video. But the idea is that you can print this anywhere in the world, and the reason I wanted to do it is, even with these, the reason I started building the brass nozzles was I built a cabinet, it had the normal trigger gun in it, it was terrible, I couldn't get it to work properly. I'd ordered a gun from overseas, we didn't have anything locally, and it was going to take about a month for it to turn up. So not this shape, the previous shape with the wire strainers. I went and got all the parts and I worked out how to build that so I could have a nozzle to test with, and it actually worked really, really well. Since then, I've sold hundreds of them all over the world. But the reason a lot of people want these is because they have a setup that's not quite working properly. They want something they can grab, plug in, and it'll go. So that's one of the design ethos that I put into this. I want anyone in the world to be able to print this up, put it together, put it in their cabinet, and get a good result. So that's what I'm working on at the moment. The other thing is, like I say, the reason I built these was because it was going to take a month to turn up. With this, you can get the file, download it, put it in a printer, or get someone local to print it for you, put it straight in your cabinet, and it's going to work. So that's the goal. I haven't even tested this yet, so we're about to throw it in the cabinet very shortly. I'll get set up and we'll do a couple of test pieces to see whether or not it will work like this, or whether I need to make some adaptations. The other advantages to this is you can print just this part here. If the internal air jet wears out, you just go print another one. If you've got the file, you can print as many as you need. If you can't get a hold of brass fittings easily, you can just print these. These nozzles I've designed specifically so that if you have these pink ceramic tips, they can actually be used as well. You need a brass. This was actually one of these hose barbs that I've just drilled out to fit over top of that. So then that just fits in there like that. Screws in there like that. And then you can use these hose barbs as well if you wanted in here to have either 3/8, ½ inch, or even 5/8 if you wanted to. So the design is specifically designed to suit these pink nozzles. If you're getting frustrated, I still don't know how well these are going to last, how badly they will wear, but these will come in the software, in the file, the STL file, so you can effectively print everything you need, and without having to get any brass parts or any ceramics, you'll have something that you'll at least be able to test the cabinet with. So these aren't designed for long-term use. I don't know how well they're going to work, but the idea is that if they do work well enough, you can print it out immediately and test your cabinet. You don't have to wait 3 weeks for one of these, or there are other nozzle manufacturers, gun manufacturers around the world that make a very good product, but quite often people are left waiting. So the idea is you download the file, you print them out, and then within a few hours you actually have a gun that's testable within your unit. And depending on how well they wear, you may just want to continue using them and just print out replacement parts for them, or shift to these type of nozzles just so you have a bit longer life on them. So like I say, it still hasn't been tested yet. So what I'm going to do now is I'll get set up over by my cabinet and we'll fire this in and we'll actually see whether or not it works. So at this stage I might have just wasted the last few minutes talking through all that if it doesn't work, but going off the dimensions and the way it looks like it flows and the basic tests that I've done on it so far, I think it will actually work. So let's head over to the cabinet, we'll put it in and we'll see how we go. Right, so we're set up in here. First impressions, it feels very light. If I just stomp on the pedal, turn on the pump, with no air on at the moment, seems to be flowing right as it is. It's dribbling a little bit out of it, but there's no Teflon tape or anything on the inside, so that's to be expected. It's also not too tight. The lengths of the hoses are set up for the straight type nozzles, so the hoses are a little bit kinked at the moment. That's not too big a deal. So with the flow looking all right, my concerns are whether or not the pressure inside here is going to be enough to blow the threads out, but the threads seem to fit quite nicely on this particular build. And I have kept the inner dimension of the hose barb relatively small, just to try and help prevent it from building up too much pressure on the inside here. So I don't know what the flow rate's going to be like, but the initial impressions are it feels pretty good and it looks like it's going to do the job. So let's just plug the air in and we'll see how it goes. And we're ready. Here we go. So that looks like it's come up pretty well. Just excuse the compressor. I'm on the little compressor at the moment, just because I was doing a short test. I couldn't be bothered going to set up the large one, the diesel compressor. So slow that down a little bit. So yeah, that looks pretty good. I'm going to stop it there for a second, and I want to change out the plastic nozzle for the ceramic type, and then we'll do the back side of it. So just hang fire there for a second. I will change it out and be right back. Right, so we now have the ceramic tip fit in there. I changed nothing else. It was just a matter of unscrewing the plastic 3D printed nozzle, fitting the ceramic one directly in place, and then winding in the brass nut like I explained before. And the initial test that I just did seems to flow all right. So I've just plugged the air back in now, and let's see how it goes on the back side of this part. Just broken that hose barb. That was me hanging on a little bit too hard. I'm used to gripping right around the hoses, so that's something to be careful with. But even with that broken and it pumping out everywhere else, it still seems to be doing quite a decent job. You can tell that the performance has been limited. There's obviously not as much slurry and media making it in. As you can imagine, you can see it all pouring out by my palm there, but it's still cleaning relatively well. Yeah, see, as you can see, let me just see that screen. I gripped it quite hard here, side loaded it, and I broke that piece. This hose bar was also off the original design. That was supposed to be the top here and have an air jet threaded into the end of it. So it is a little bit thin through that section. So by the time I upload these files, this part will be different, but it's something to keep in mind. If you do download these files and use them, just not to put too much side loading on these plastic hose barbs, preferably swapping them out for brass ones. But just looking at what's going on there, I'll pull it out so we can have a better look. I haven't done the whole part, but from the initial looks, it looks like it's doing pretty well. So let's pull it out and we'll have a look at both the plastic nozzle and the ceramic nozzle. So I'll get set up back over on the bench and we'll have a look. Right, so there's the finish. I was a little bit rushed and missed a few spots that you can see in there, but the spots that got hit, they come up very much with the type of finish I expect out of the other nozzles that I sell. I actually wish I'd spent a little bit longer on it, but really I'm quite happy with that. And as for the other side, this is with the ceramic tip, and this has come up pretty much exactly how I would have expected it. Now remember, that happened during the test where I actually leaned on that and broke it, and as I expected, this is the original one that I designed to go with these, and it's got a thread in there. If I can get that to focus, you can see there, that thread in there was designed for an air jet to be threaded onto the inside of it, but it was a very weak design. My old printer wouldn't even print a decent circle, it wouldn't thread in. Wasted my time with that. I really should have spent a little bit extra time and redesigned that so it didn't have the threads on the inside there. It would have been a lot stronger, like this other one here. You can see that's a very, very small jet, small internal diameter, but the strength for that I think would have come if the inside of there, see where the printer runs around, it's a solid print, and then on the bottom there's like a lattice. If that solid print had have actually run through the whole length of the unit and that was slightly smaller, and ran that diameter right the way through, I think that'll be a lot stronger. So I will change that before the STL file goes up. But again, this is all temporary stuff to get you going. I would be happy actually to run that permanently, but if I was to do that, I would swap to these hose barbs. They're very cheap though. If you can find the right supplier, you'll get them for a couple of bucks each. So for the cost of the file, you can print as many of them as you want. And then it's just a matter of replacing those or paying for your filament. So this is PLA. This one here is ABS. I haven't run ABS through my new printer yet. I'll be doing that in the next month or so. But this design here, the PLA, has seemed to have come out quite strong. It's quite rigid. I don't know what the wear profile is going to be, but that doesn't really matter, because at this point these are just designed to be either disposable or just used to test the cabinet while you're waiting for either one of these brass nozzles, if you get them through me, or I see some people end up waiting for the Tacomas. Very, very high quality gun, but occasionally they seem to be getting backlogged, or maybe it's couriers, I don't know, but I see a lot of people questioning how long it actually should take to get a Tacoma, and other guns as well, so it's not just Tacoma. Particularly my brass ones. If I'm sending my brass ones from New Zealand, they usually take quite a while as well. So this is just a quick option. I mean, if you already have those hose barbs, you can fire them straight in from the get-go. Otherwise, it will work. I showed it would work on the plastic. You just can't hang on to the hoses. You got to grip onto the body. If you put too much sideways pressure on these, you can break them, as I've shown. I would think that once I redesign that and it's been printed properly, and again that's 60% infill, you could probably go further. And with the new design that doesn't have the thread in the lower half, it should be a lot stronger as well. But I mean, that's just to fire in and go. What that has shown there, what it's shown to me at least, is that with a stronger one of these, you don't need to do any machining at all. You can send the file to one of your mates, or a local 3D printer. I can't imagine it'll cost you too much, but if you have a 3D printer, you can print the whole lot out. That first test I did, that was all 3D printed stuff. All I'd done was printed it, peeled off all the supports. There's a couple of supports on the inside of here as well, where this lower passage joins into the upper passage. There's a support in there as well for the top half of the print, and then down the bottom here, there's, because the edge fits on top of there, there's actually a scaffold down here as well, supports down here as well, that you have to chip out. Also, if you're doing your own printing, you'll obviously have a better idea as to what materials will shrink at what rates. When I printed this one on mine, I just guessed, and I went 100% on the body, and then on all the hose barbs and the nozzle, I printed at 97%, and it all threaded straight together, and it seems to fit quite nicely. So I would suggest I use the Ender 5. Just the standard Ender 5, it's not the Pro model or anything. And this is actually the standard PLA that came with it. So yeah, just PLA, 100% here, 97% on the hose barbs and the nozzle. I will change that design before I put the file up, but I may even put that together and put it up when I put this video up. So we'll see how we go. Otherwise it'll be shortly after. That'll be up on my store. So that can be downloaded. But as for the test, I'm really happy with how that's come up. I put that right there like that. So that's how it looks. Nice and light. Just look through here. There we go. The edge, it's already printed into the body. They're disposable. By the file, print as many as you want. If it wears out, throw it in the bin and fire on another one. The whole purpose behind these was to make things more accessible. Now, wherever you are in the world, if you have access to a 3D printer, within a matter of hours you can have a working nozzle, and this has worked straight off the bat. You don't have to do any tuning or anything, just print it out, put it together and go for gold. So yeah, this is I've been excited about doing this video for a long time. I'm happy I've had a chance to actually get into it. I am now going to go back into, I've got a few more of these and the other type of nozzles to build, so I'll get onto that this afternoon, and then I'll put this video up tonight. Thanks for watching.